I've got to be honest, our guest, as he's come in for the last, I think, 4 weeks, Peter, I mean, he was up there. You can't, you're not a singer. He's up there dancing, and I said, "You're dancing because of kung fu fighting, Peter." And he goes, "Oh, no." I mean, why are you dancing? He said, "I've picked up a West Australian and I saw how well our party's going." So he said, that was the reason why he's brought in cakes and no, he hasn't really. But Peter, welcome to the show yet again.
Nick, it's great to be back. Yeah, thanks for having me back. And yeah, I think we are in line for our fourth in a row of our weekly podcast series. It may as well be now. It's going really well. Last week of the campaign, and the weather's turned a little bit, but the sentiment of the voters on the ground has definitely turned as well in the last couple of days and weeks. So yeah, getting some really good traction. Very exciting week ahead of Saturday.
So what's your, and I've already voted, and I think I mentioned to you that I saw you at the pre-polling, if that's what it's called, downtown at just Commodore Drive there.
That's right.
But my question to you was, then I asked it last week, I'll ask it this week, what's the feedback been like on the ground?
It's been fantastic. In fact, the sentiment towards change, I think, has probably been the most palpable that I've ever seen it. And I've been working on political campaigns for coming up to a decade now, and the feeling of change and the atmosphere on the booth is something I've never experienced before. I've never seen this in such a way that the public coming through, whether they're rusted on Labor supporters, whether they're lifelong Liberals, whether they're Greens voters, everyone wants to see change, and I think that's a really crucial sentiment. It's a key part of our democracy is that we have change through voting, and the sentiment for change has it's been overwhelming, and I think it's caught the other side pretty unawares as well.
Yes, I mean, it's astounding, and I follow politics a little bit, and I just thought, again, look, if the Liberals were in, like Labor are in, meaning that they have so much control, I actually don't think it's really good for any party to have that much control. And how many seats do the Libs have? About 3 or 4?
So in the lower house we have 2 seats out of 59, and so the Labor Party have got 53 or thereabouts. So it's an overwhelming majority, and you're exactly right. It's not good for our democracy because they hold the majority in the upper house as well, and what that means is they can effectively ram through whatever legislation that they want, and it doesn't matter how much we jump up and down about it. They've got enough power that they can force it through. And a clear example of that, which we were talking about just off air before, is with this Cultural Heritage Act. Now that act was rammed through the Parliament within 2 days. It was only on the floor of Parliament for 2 days. There's so many issues with that in principle, in terms of debate and amendment for the Act, but in practicality, that is where this Act has failed, and that's why there's been all these mass movements. We held a massive community forum here in Rockingham, well attended. There was a big one in Katanning last night I saw as well. So that's an example where they've got so much power that anything can go through the Parliament. It's not a true democracy, and that's why we're having such backlash from the community on these key issues.
Did you, I noticed one in Katanning last night. I think on the news they said, Katanning's not a huge town, and I think they said they had 400 people there, but there was people waiting outside. And some of the anger, and this is whoever made the decision, and some of the anger was palpable, wasn't it?
No, definitely. I had some of my team there. So Neil Thompson, the MLC, so he's the mining and pastoral member. He is an expert in this field, so he was there attending. My teammate, Senator Slade Brockman, my federal colleague, was also there listening to the concerns. But notably, there was one chair that was empty, and that was for the federal agricultural minister that didn't even bother to show up to the community forum and actually explain to the farmers and to the voters exactly what their issue is. And that arrogance is so palpable that it translates here in Rockingham as well. I've been constantly hearing, where is the Labor candidate? Where are the Labor Party on this issue, X, Y, and Z? So it seems to be a government-wide thing. And again, it goes back to they've got such arrogance and so many numbers in the Parliament, they don't feel like they need to actually speak to the voters.
And we had a debate just over a week ago, I think. How did you find that, Peter?
It was really insightful to learn a bit more about each of the candidates. There are 9 candidates running in the seat of Rockingham. Some of them I've never heard of before, and most likely will never hear of again. But it was this is the nature of politics. Yes. But it was really good to hear from Hayley Edwards, the Independent. So I got to learn a little bit more about her, and her platform is, by and large, it is a Liberal leaning platform, which is interesting given that she used to be a Labor member. But she's running on a reasonably common sense platform. I was obviously there. We had the Cannabis Party was there, a couple of independents. The Greens lady fell sick, I understand, on the day, so she couldn't actually attend. But it was really interesting to me that the only candidate out of the 9 that refused to come to the debate altogether was the Labor Party. And I was actually asked by the media about that yesterday. They said, well, where is the Labor candidate on these issues, and why is she camera shy and blah, blah. And that's what I said to them, is when you need the Labor Party, they're missing in action. If they cannot speak to the voters, how do you expect them to speak for the voters?
Oh, it's a very good line. I like that.
Well, it's true. It's true.
It
If you want to be the true local representative, you need to have a really clear understanding of the issues in your community. And to do that, you need to speak to the people. You need to speak to small business. You need to speak to the community groups, understand their needs and their concerns. And that's my biggest concern, is those people are not being spoken to through this by-election.
It's how do you have any expectations in your head about how it might turn out? I've got to cover how it might turn out.
Oh, look, I'm not a political commentator, so I'll leave the polling to the pollsters. I'm not. I don't have, to be completely honest, I don't have a set number in mind on what I think it will be. I get the feeling it's going to be close, and that's why that's so important to swing this seat, is because every single vote will count on the day that the polls do not shut until 6 p.m, and it is game on for me until that point. Anytime I run a campaign, I'm fighting to win. Be damned what the polls may say, and whether they're in my favour or in the other side's favour, to me doesn't matter. I'm only out there. I'm fighting really, really hard to win, and I'm fighting to listen and actually advocate for the community. So that's the main thing. That's the most important thing. Whatever the numbers say, we'll let that be reflective on the night. Who knows? And
I was saying on air before, and here at the radio station, we obviously have to be unbiased, but I think for me as a presenter, you can sort of state facts. And by that, I mean, I know that yourself and Hayley have been working extremely hard, like getting up and going to train stations and being involved, like here at IPL Radio, and going to the polling booths and make. So, it's like everything. It's hard not, no matter who you are, it's hard not to admire people who have put in the effort.
Yeah, well, that's right. And look, public service is about sacrifice. I'm sure we spoke about last week. I'm pulling mostly 20 and 21-hour days the last 6 weeks, and then that'll continue until after this week. But and people say, that's a huge sacrifice, huge toll on the body and all these things. And yes, they're right. But the key for public service is that you are there to serve. And service is a sacrifice, and that's what you have to be. If you want to be someone that represents other people, you need to be willing to serve them and sacrifice your time, your effort, everything that you are needs to go into representing your local community. And to be completely honest, if people don't do that, if people don't make that sacrifice in public service, the people will sniff you out pretty quickly, and they'll work out whether you're genuine or not.
I think that's the thing, isn't it? Like, you're a young man, and what I find is I don't know where it's a comparison, but if you're a top-line sports player, let's just say a footballer, or a cricketer, your life in that particular genre, sport, it comes first, absolutely first. So my point being, you can't be like as a cricketer and say, well, I'm not going to go to England, and you go to England for 2 or 3 months, and you've got your wife and kids at home. So I'm assuming, again, with yourself, Peter, that, you're only young, and you've got a lot of, when you're young, you have a lot of outside influences, but you manage to stay completely focused on what you want.
That's exactly right. Look, and it's part of the way I was raised, is you're either all in or you're all out. And for something like this, you need to be all in. You can't be half-assing it and I'm going to campaign this day and I'll just take the next day off. That doesn't exist, because we're here to fight for the people, and the people in the community's needs are 24/7. So if you have a local representative who's actually willing to step up to the plate, has that vision, and is willing to put in the time and the effort, then we could, we spoke about this last week, we could be the next Mandurah, because they've got local members down there that work their tails off. Andrew Hastie, for example, is a member for Canning. The reason that Mandurah gets all of the funding down there is, and Andrew has a pretty safe seat because of the hard work that he's done. But the reason that Mandurah gets all the investment around there is because he fights. And that's exactly what the people want to see. They want to see the Liberals fighting to win.
Yeah.
Andrew fights for his community, and that's why they get a lot of the perks down there. That's exactly what we need in Rockingham, and I'm exactly willing to bring that.
It's great to hear. A question for you. I read believe it or not, I do read I try and read most of the papers and catch up on things on the on the internet as well. I mean, I know there's a lot of rubbish on there, but I'm interested as a local Rockingham person myself. Do you have many plans for? And I think I know that I might say, look, I'm not trying to prioritise things but I do know there's been a lot of talk about homelessness, investment here, and I think that they're very, very important things. I do. Just off track, which we haven't discussed much, I could be wrong. Is there seems to be a lot of law and order that I think a lot of people are sort of sick of. Is there a plan for that, Peter, you have?
Yeah, no, that's actually a key pillar of what I'm running on in terms of my platform. And I'll preface it by saying the people of Rockingham and Western Australia are sick to death of feeling unsafe in their own houses. It's such a huge issue. So as you would know, the youth crime in Rockingham is out of control. The actual rate of youth crime, especially these kids on those scooters and all these things, they are causing an absolute mess. And it's not just been, this hasn't popped up in the last 6 months. This has been a systemic issue for the last 6 years where there's been youth crime out of control. And as you know, I'm a small business owner, so I'm talking to other business owners all the time. And they're saying that youth crime is actually one of their largest expenses. Yeah. Because of the impacts of crime in the area and on their business directly. And then there's the other point, violent crime. It's up by 30% in the last 6 years, and that extends to Rockingham as well. And all this comes while Western Australia is the richest we've ever been. We are sitting on a $4.2 billion surplus. But here's a fact. We don't have a 24/7 police station in Rockingham. Tell me how that works when places like Armidale, Mandurah, Midland, Joondalup, they all have 24/7 police stations, but there's not enough funding. There's not enough funding for a 24/7 police station in Rockingham, despite the actual issues on the ground being in our community. I think it's outrageous. And so that's a key pillar of what I'm fighting for, is more police visibility on the ground here in Rockingham. We know there are issues in retaining police officers in West Australia Police, and we've spoken on those statistics in the past. But we need a greater police presence in Rockingham, and we need to get funding for a 24/7 police station. The fact we don't have it is opening us up to all of these issues, like youth crime, like violent crime. And then that knocks onto other issues in the community, like, youth engagement, mental health, elder abuse and things like that. By not having these core services available in Rockingham, it's not just a shame for the last former Premier and the last local member. It's actually a disgrace on this government.
I think, again, I'm just a layman out there, and it's not good, is it? I look at small businesses and they really, really battle, and, if somebody damages their property, maybe insurance can fix it. But so what happens? Instead of paying X amount of dollars insurance, they've got to pay 5 times as much. Then they've got to put their prices up to be able to do this. And then people say, oh, well, it's too expensive. I can't shop there anymore. And they're small business shrinks. And you have a small business, it must be difficult to try and get all the pieces to fit with small business.
You're right, yeah. And look, small business is something that we do because we love it, and we love business, we love our customers, and we love to give back to the community. That's the core for most small businesses and why they operate. They're not out there to, rake in $50 million a year. That doesn't exist. What small business is all about for me, it's about giving back to the community. And when you have these overheads that are caused by crime, and it's like you just have to expect you're going to lose a certain amount of your revenue due to crime. It's tough enough as it is. It's tough enough between paying local, federal and state government regulations, taxes, all of the fees and charges that are associated with running a small business, and then you add in issues in the local community like crime. It just becomes too much for some people. I'm actually good friends with the folks at Chart House Cafe, Rana and Sue there. They're down down in Waikiki. And they've got a full liquor license, and they love the community, and they get such great reception. But they say, we will not have any alcohol in our store, and we will never, ever open at night ever again, because the issues of violent and youth crime in that area are just out of control, that it would actually be worse for them to open and just because of the amount of crime and the amount of theft and the amount of violence that would be going on. And that's their experience. They used to open in the evenings and they say, no, the crime is just out of control. We cannot take the risk. Cannot take the risk for our business and for our customers to open. That's so wrong. It's an issue of crime that's actually stifling small business in our area. Yeah. It's beyond a shame.
Gee, I didn't know that, because I've been to the Chart House just down there. We've got the Baker's Delight.
That's right.
IGA there, and the Thai restaurant from memory. Actually, I know we shouldn't plug these, but I reckon they do the best fish and chips in Rockingham in the fish and chip shop there. But it's interesting because you're talking about nuts and bolts here, aren't you? Like, you're not talking about, I'm not degrading any of the big boys like Coles and Woolies and Bunnings, but they're going to survive. They make billions of dollars of profit, but these small businesses, they tend to feel the brunt of that, don't they?
That's right. There's the mum and dad shops that are, being either squeezed out by the bigger competition, or they're facing these issues. There's so much red tape from governments that stop us from doing business, and then you add in factors like crime into the area. For some, it'll just become too much. And that's the reason that we're just across the road from the shopping centre right now. So I'm going there next door to talk to some small business owners straight after this, because they're struggling they can't pay the rents. They can't keep the lights on. They can't pay or keep their staff. And these are issues that small businesses in Rockingham are actually facing. The only way we're going to address these issues is by having a local member who actually talks to small business, actually knows small business, has run their own. Because it's a very different feeling when you're the last person to get paid. When you're working in a company, or you're working as part of a political party, it's fine because you're just part of the machine. When you start your own small business, it is an entrepreneurship. You are the last person to get paid, and you need to make it work. And those people, they're my people, and they don't feel like they're being listened to by the government.
Jeez. Yeah, it's interesting. We're sort of digressing a little bit, but I'm always interested in small business because I understand that money's a lot tighter these days. We've got to be careful where we buy our things from. But I think there's a lot of misnomers out there too, and I think unfortunately, it's a bit like we talked about before. If digressing about the latest thing with people understanding about the Cultural Act now, I think when it's brought to people's attention, it tends to get a bit of traction like this. And I think if we can get people somehow to be involved in small business, that will get traction as well.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I do see the council do some things in engaging small business. I'm a member of the Chamber of Commerce down here, the Rockingham Kwinana Chamber of Commerce. I do a lot of events with those folks there, and it's almost like a community of small businesses to come together and support each other, because we all know that it's tough out there, especially post-COVID. The market is it's all up and down depending on what industry you're in. It can be quite tough for business in Rockingham, so it's good that we've got networks like the Chamber of Commerce and the business chats and various things that we do have around Rockingham. That's great, but what we need from the state government is that support to come in to those communities and to those businesses to give real life help, because it's one thing for businesses to share business to keep each other alive, but it's another thing for the government to stop doing lip service and actually get some real solutions for small businesses.
How frustrating I don't know how you can put these things into words, but if you maybe it's a really weird example, Peter, but if you're watching your team play footy and they're doing really well and the umpire pours out what you conceive to be a really, really stupid free kick, you get angry because you think, well, that's not right. And you get angry. How do you feel like when you see things like youth crime, small business being ignored, in your opinion, which is fine? How do you what's the word I want? How do you put that anger, if you like, or frustration into action without getting too annoyed? Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, I take the points. It definitely does make me angry. All these issues that have existed in our community, some of them have existed for even longer than I've been alive, and they still haven't been addressed. So it definitely does make me angry. But the way that I channel that that feeling is into fight. And I'm not meaning martial arts, going out and actually throwing any punches. No, it means about fighting for the community. So I channel that anger, and so I know that I'm articulate. I know that I've got real ideas for Rockingham, and I know that I've got the passion to actually execute and deliver for Rockingham. So I channel that anger into real ideas and into a fight, so that I can campaign, I can get out there and talk to people, hear about their issues, communicate my ideas, and actually execute on delivering for Rockingham. It's all about channeling that energy into effort and actually having a deliverable result that people can measure.
That's what they want, isn't it? I think, again, that's what everybody wants, I think, for Rockingham. And it's a person or persons who can deliver that. I noticed on the news last night, you had Libby Metten, is that if I pronounce it correctly?
That's right.
What's her take on Rockingham? Have you talked to her about it?
Yeah, absolutely. No, Libby and I are on the phone every single day. She's come down to Rockingham I need more than two hands to explain the amount of times that she's come down and helped out on this campaign. She's doing a great job of supporting me, and I back her in 100%. But her view on Rockingham is, in the first place, it is so important that we ran in the seat of Rockingham, because there are so many Liberal voices down here that have been squashed down under the thumb for many, many years that haven't been listened to. So in the first instance, for us to have someone that the Liberals can actually vote for and be a voice to, that's really important that we are running in Rockingham. Now, she's super supportive of my campaign. As she said, she's super supportive of me personally, so she's been making herself available no end. She's really, really supportive that, we push as hard as we absolutely can, and we fight. Frankly, the Liberals of Western Australia, we're back. We are coming back for 2025. We will return to government in 2025 in one way or another. You can mark my words on that. And that's it. And this is the first instance. This is where we turn the tide. Whatever result we have on Saturday, whether it's win, lose or draw, it's going to send a real message to the government. And the message is they need to get ready, because they're in for a tough fight in the next 18 months.
Yes, I think no matter who you are, a sporting team or whatever, and I just don't think that. What do I say? Pride before the fall.
Pride cometh before the fall.
Yeah, and I think, and I think it happens to governments all over the world or whatever, that you can't, no matter who you are, you cannot afford to be arrogant, because, before you know it, and momentum's like everything, Peter, momentum's a very interesting thing. And if a party is getting momentum, sometimes that can be very difficult to stop.
That's right, and that's something that we've seen over the course of this by-election as well. If we bring it back down to that local perspective, my campaign is something that we had to ramp up very quickly after the former Premier resigned out of exhaustion, but that was something that we had to ramp up very, very quickly. So I'd run for Brand for the federal seat, as you know. I'm involved with lots of community organisations, and then from there, as soon as we kicked off with Rockingham, it's like we need to ramp up into fifth gear almost immediately, and we did that, and we've done that very successfully, and so that's actually led to my campaign gaining a lot of momentum. And what that looks like is actually translating into votes and converting people, especially those rusty Labor voters who've always voted Labor. The amount of people who've reached out and said that always voted Labor, but never again, or I'm going to give you a try this time, because we've got such momentum in this area. It is astounding that we've been able to ramp that up. And you're very, very correct in saying once that momentum gets up, it's very difficult to stop.
It doesn't matter. You watch sport, you watch this, you watch that, and it I don't know what it is, but the wheel starts. It's like a snowball. If the wheel starts turning, and before you know it, you can't stop it.
Before you know it, we might just win the seat of Rockingham.
Here's a question again. I have just random question pop into my head. Is the demographics, almost nearly a word of the day, is the demographics of Rockingham changing? Like it was, again, from an outside point of view, you could see it was obviously Labor, this, that, the other. But is there more, is it changing the demographics?
Yeah, well, Rockingham is a very interesting seat because we've got an ageing population, as you know, and there are a lot of older folks who hang around Safety Bay and, live in the coastal sort of areas. So that they would probably split between voting Liberal and Labor, be reasonably even in a seat like Rockingham. But it is really interesting that we've got this ageing population, and so we've got new people coming into the electorate. Yeah. And those people, what we're seeing, there's a lot of them are migrants, and a lot of them are swing voters. And that's the thing about migrants, is when they come to this country, a lot of them gain citizenship, and then all of a sudden they're really keen to engage in the political system because they're not jaded. Like you and I have grown up in this system all our lives, and it's just, election is just another thing. But migrants are really interesting in that regard because they're new to the system. They're open to hearing about what both sides have to say and what they can actually do for their community, and they're very family based. Very family based, the new people coming into Rockingham. So they're very much people who are naturally inclined to vote for the Libs. So we're doing a fair bit of targeting in that space as well. We're not just, and I'm a big supporter of, looking after our elderly folks, don't worry, but we are also thinking about Rockingham is changing. And that's why we need a strong local member who can take Rockingham forward for the next 30 years, or what's the 50-year plan for Rockingham? That's what we need to be setting up, because those are the new people coming into our community, and that's what they're asking. What are the long-term plans for our community?
That's interesting, isn't it? Because I think you see the will, and I'm probably wrong here, so please correct me. But if you look at a place like, I'd say Sorrento-ish, I remember when I first came to WA, you drive down, West Coast Highway, and all old houses, and I got the impression it's just very much stayed. But now you go there and it's all so much different. And I see, and I'm just asking your opinion, I see similar driving down around Safety Bay and Shoalwater, but slowly but surely what happened in Sorrento. And I think that's why I asked you about the demographics. I see it, you can come and probably buy a house in those areas for in a decent spot, probably between, 800 to 2 million. Yep. And I can see people coming here, and I just think the demographics will change. And
there's the same thing that happened in East Fremantle, South Fremantle, or Bicton, like all of these places that used to be there. They're just the wharfy towns. Like that's right. There's nothing there, and now most people couldn't afford to live there. So it's definitely changing in Rockingham, and it's a statewide thing, or a countrywide thing, really, is that we change and we develop. And so even a place like Scarborough, 50 years ago, we didn't think it would ever be like it is today. And Sorrento is a great example of that. We have that opportunity in Rockingham. We've got the space, we've got the money, we've definitely got the money, but we just don't use it, and we don't have anyone that fights for the projects to actually get on with the job and realise that 50-year plan to become the next Sorrento or the next Scarborough. And that's why it's so important to send the government the message. People of Rockingham won't tolerate it, because we're missing out. We're missing out while Mandurah, Fremantle and all north of the river get all of the money, because they're worried about buying their votes, and Rockingham gets nothing. That's why it's so important to send the government a message. We will not tolerate this anymore. It's time to get on with the job and deliver real solutions.
Jesus, you're really, it's really great. I love, because I can hear the passion in your voice, and like you said before, people soon pick up if you're a fraud or a fake, or, could use a few politicians here. Okay, we can go overseas. I think if you're a Boris Johnson, people sort of, or maybe to a degree a Donald Trump, I think people soon see through that, if you like, they've got an aura about them and a personality, but when it comes to nuts and bolts, I think people soon see through that.
Yep. Yeah, you need the substance.
Yeah, and I think that, you've been here, last 4 weeks, and you've done the debates and this, that, the other, and you still got, not you shouldn't have, you still got a really burning passion inside you, which is to be admired.
No, I do. I love it. And as I've said to someone earlier today, it's like win, lose or draw, whatever happens here, I'm not going away. I'm here to serve my community. That is the core of why I do this. Whether it's federal, state, local, whatever it may be, I love serving the community and giving back, because the community's given me so much. And I've been really lucky in the way that I've grown up in this area, and the organisations that I'm involved with that have given me so much. So I'm all about giving back to the community. Listen to what people really need, and if I can articulate that in such a way that I can change legislation, or if I can get projects delivered by the government to actually benefit Rockingham, that is the most fulfilling thing for me, if I could do that and deliver that for Rockingham.
And as always, Peter, I know that you've got about 15 phone. No, it's a joke, guys. But Peter, again, I know I stress this to the listeners out there. You need to be able to contact the candidates personally to be able to hear them. Got to be careful what I say. I had written to somebody in Rockingham who was in politics, and I could have told you the letter would have got back, and sure enough, that's what I got back. I don't even think it was from the person who wrote it to you. So, and I think, well, I don't want to hear that. I could have told you what you're going to write. Actually take it and personalise it to me, rather than, a Dear John letter, which, and that's what I think everybody out there, no matter you intend to vote Labor, Liberal, cannabis, whatever, I just implore you, if you need to be able to contact the person. I don't think that's hard.
No, it's not, and it's a matter of respect. Frankly, if you, as I said at the top of the show, it's if you're not willing to speak to the people, how can you expect to speak for them? I just can't imagine that as being a possibility. That's why my campaign phone is in my left hip pocket. Anyone can give me a call anytime. All my phone numbers, emails, they're all on my social media at Peter4 Rockingham. Peter, that's number 4 Rockingham, and all of my policies. And you can always just shoot me a message on Facebook. It goes to my right hand phone, which is linked to my social media, which I handle all of myself. So anyone can get in touch with me anytime, and it's about having that respect and that connection to your people.
Big thing, respect. Whether young or whatever, it's just respect. And every time I met you, a few times at the polling booth and that, it's the respect. And I don't want to be taken for granted as a voter, and I think that's very important.
That's right, yeah. The most important thing is that we have a strong local representative who actually listens, actually shows up, but most importantly will fight for the community, like really has that energy and that passion to go ahead and get on with the job.
So, Peter, just before we wrap up, what are we today, Tuesday? Yes, we are. Would you like to, obviously I have to, run us through your, for want of a better word, diary for the rest of the week of what you've got planned?
Yeah, exactly. So every morning I'm either at very early at the train station handing out my wares to all the people going off to work there. So you can usually catch me there between 6 and 7:30. After that, we'll be out sign waving at your major intersections. So I did Ray Road, Reed Street today. Tomorrow it'll be Reed Street, Patterson Road, and then the day after that we'll do Ennis Ave, Patterson Road. So we're getting all of those. A lot of volunteers will be out there waving our placards, rain, hail, or shine. And then every day from 8 a.m. till 6 p.m. early voting is open at the early voting centre, 8 Commodore Drive in Rockingham. I'll be there by and large all day, every day. I am out and about for some small business visits and a few coffee catch-ups with organisations over the next couple of days. But it's really time to execute now. The big day is Saturday. It's getting very, very exciting. So I'll be at pre-poll every single day. And then Saturday, you can expect I won't be sleeping at all that day. I'll be flying around the electorate, talking to as many people as I possibly can, and we'll just have a really, really great exercise on the day. And after that, I'll actually be at the Ocean Clipper Inn. Following 6 o'clock, win, lose or draw, we'll be counting the votes, and we'll be at the Ocean Clipper Inn for a bit of a function there. Anyone who's a supporter of the campaign can come around. We'll have some food and drinks ready to go, and that's another great small business to support there. So we're in there for the after election function.
I think that's great. Again, it's just it's a simple little thing. Again, just like everybody else. So you're actually here to tell us that you, after 6 o'clock at the Clipper Inn, now that doesn't get any, like nobody knows.
No.
Like I never knew. Now I know. And you think, oh, well, I think those things are what we need, we need to know. We all see the signs on the side of the street and this, that, the other. So a question, Peter, like you mentioned volunteers. Is there a lopsided count in the volunteers? Now, let's say Labor hold this seat. Do they have more volunteers than you, or is that you don't know? Or?
I know to an extent, and some of this will be speculation, but I know from my perspective, I've got about 800 volunteers. And
I'm sorry?
800 volunteers, yeah. And most of them are actually community grassroots people. So I've got obviously got the whole Liberal Party behind me, which is excellent. They're coming down and helping out on the day, but I've got a huge groundswell of support from the community. So I think probably about half of those people are just people I know around the community that believe in me so much that they're actually going to come down and do the deed for me on the day because they believe in what we're doing. I can expect that the other side in particular, I don't know what the independent numbers are looking like, but for Team Red at least, I understand that they'll probably have a fair few more volunteers, and I say that in quotation marks because most of them are actually paid to be there, and that's a factor that they're in government, so they're actually using taxpayer dollars to do that. But I've seen examples of that happening. Even in this by-election, I know of people who are being paid to stand there and hand out, which I've got a view on that. But the key is I always say to people, it's like one volunteer is worth 10 pressed men. And I know that the people that are on the ground for me, they are the best people that I've ever come across. They believe in the vision of what we have for Rockingham, what the Liberal Party has to offer. So every single person that you will see on polling day and on the pre-poll, they are all grassroots volunteers.
Gee, that's, so I've said to you in our previous chats, one of the brilliant things about talking to people, is that, I never knew that.
Mm.
And now I think, gee whiz, maybe we're digressing, going on a different subject, but no matter what the cause, I'm not big on celebrities, personalities, telling me, no matter what it is, Peter, just an opinion, telling me what to do.
Mm.
Like, if there's something controversial, you've got to do this. Why? Well, because I'm famous, you've got to do this. And I think, but you're telling me. I don't need to be told. Do you find that, I find it personally, I'm a lot older than you, I find that irritating.
It goes back to respect, doesn't it? And so,
I think so.
Don't, flag your flyers in your face and be like, you need to vote this way because I'm so-and-so and, I've done X, Y, and Z. People don't like that. People don't want that. And it's not showing respect to your community. So, no, it's not so much about, for me especially, it's the whole egos and the personalities is that, no, cut it all off to the side because, again, the voters will sniff you out if you're not genuine. I genuinely believe that. I
think, and maybe we're going into a subject which... I find that sometimes it's a bit like a little child, Peter, in that the more you tell a little child not to do something, he's going to do it.
Mm.
And I think that one of the campaigns for a particular subject now is they're getting more and more people to say things, but I actually think it's having a reverse effect. Do you have an opinion on that?
My view is that the next local member of Rockingham needs to be a strong representative. And frankly, if you can't run your own press conference or you can't deliver any policies or visit any businesses without another member of parliament or perhaps retired member of parliament holding your hand, then that gives me some big warning signs that a candidate doing that wouldn't be ready to be a member of parliament. They may be the best of intention, but the fact is, if you need to roll out all of these past celebrities to come out and win a campaign for you, then I think that it's an indication that you're not ready for parliament and your campaign is too lacklustre.
And I think even, extending that further, I think that, if I can say it, that's with a lot of issues, people are rolling out things, and I think, I just find it particularly frustrating that, we're, your ex. Why is that? Well, because I told you you're ex. I go, no, I'm not, but I don't like that side of of politics, what have you.
Yeah, no, I agree. And so everyone has their own story and their own belief system and their own values. So you have to just fall into a box because you've been told to. Yeah. I think it's very close-minded if people want to be like that. Yeah. But ultimately, it's up to us as politicians and political parties to have the respect for people to say, no, you're not just going to vote X because I told you to, or you should believe in this. Yeah. No, we need to really appeal to that. What are the true values of people? Everyone is an individual. What do they believe? And how are we going to help them with their issues, or how are we going to fight for them, and how are we going to listen to them? It's not just about this guy's famous, take that card.
Exactly. So, Peter, I suppose you should wrap it up if that's okay with you.
Absolutely.
But just from a personal point of view, I'm very impressed with my chats with Peter over the last 4 weeks. I found him, and this is again, it's just a personal opinion. I found him open, I found him passionate, respectful, and whoever you vote for, I think they're the key things, Peter. And as I say, I've been most impressed with the way you present yourself, always rolling up on time. I know look, I know they should do, but Peter does. So he says he's going to be here, he's here. You ask him any questions, nothing on limits. His answers have been open. We have given this opportunity to everybody out there to do the same thing. And Peter's been more than kind to give us his time and his thoughts, and I can't thank you enough, Peter.
Nick, it's been great. I've really appreciated getting to know you over the last 4 weeks as well, and coming onto the show and being able to talk to your listeners about our plans for Rockingham. It's been a really, really great experience, and something I'll hope to continue. Win, lose or draw, whatever this weekend goes.
Well, I'm sort of in the same boat as you. Win, lose or draw. If you want to come in afterwards and have a chat, I'd be most interested. You're very easy to interview. So just finally, voting this Saturday from 8 until 6.
8 till 6, that's right.
I think if you look it up, it will tell you everywhere you can vote.
That's right. Yeah, there's 9 locations in Rockingham, but they're pretty well all of your primary schools around Rockingham. So just take a look. If you lost WAEC website, that's the Western Australian Electoral Commission, and they will have all of the. They'll have it on a map. They'll have images of where you get in and the names of the schools. So between all of that, you should be okay to find one between 8 and 6 on the day.
And Peter, it's only fair if we give you the last. It's like a debate, isn't it, when you say you've got 2 minutes to wrap up? But no, there's no time. Well, no time limit for you to say. Peter, what's your? I'd like your contract. Just again, I know you have given it on a few occasions, but your last message to people who are about to vote. Please.
Yeah, well, my best contact is Peter 4 Rockingham. That's Peter number 4 Rockingham. You get all of my social media through there. If you'd like to get in touch with me, give me a call on my mobile or send me a message at my email, which is also there. Very contactable, 24 hours a day. Nothing is off limits. My last message to the people of Rockingham before we hit the polls on the big day. If you want a local member who is a true local representative, who will always listen and show up, and who will always fight for you in the state parliament, I need your support on July 29th. We've got a massive challenge ahead of us, but I'm always up for a good fight, and that's why I need people on the ground, and I need your vote this weekend.
Thank you very much, Peter. It's, as I say, it's been great having you on the show, and best of luck for Saturday.
Thanks, Nick.